Hey guys, so firstly I wanted to say that this is a labour and delivery story of my first daughter ZOE, and so I went into labour on the night of the 21st of February 2011, and she was born 8 hours later. It was about 7:30 I went into labour, and she was born about 8 hours later at 4:05 in the morning on the 22nd of February, and that was a Tuesday in 2011, and that happened to coincidentally be the day that New Zealand, Christchurch in New Zealand, had those terrible earthquakes too. I remember looking at the hospital TV when I had it hooked up later on that morning, and just thought, what's going on? Because all there was breaking news and coverage of a terrible earthquake. So I won't forget that. Anyway, so I'll get into the labour and delivery of my daughter. Hey guys, so I wanted to do a video on my labour and delivery of my first daughter, ZOE. Okay, so she was born on the 22nd of the 2nd, 2011, and to start off with, she was due the 17th of February, so I was already overdue waiting for her. I had no signs of labour leading up to labour, and I guess looking back there was a couple of things, but it wasn't until later on that I realised that maybe that was labour signs. So what ended up happening was I was pretty uncomfortable, like every last day of your pregnancy. I was pretty uncomfortable from that morning when I got up. I woke up at 4 or 5 when the sun was getting up because it was summer here, and I just couldn't get back to sleep. And then later on that day I tried to nap too, and I still couldn't. I just felt like that feeling like you're going to get your period but you don't, like sort of butterflies in my stomach. Nothing that was like on off happening. It was just didn't feel right all day, but I had days like that anyway. So my husband came home at 5:30, and I told him I didn't feel so great anyway, in particular on that day. And so we had dinner. We just had baked beans and toast and egg that night, and I knew I need to get up and go to the toilet to poo, and this was while I was eating dinner, and it was like 7 o'clock. I was like, no. I was watching Home and Away, and I love Home and Away. It's an Aussie TV show, and I was like, no, I'm not getting up and going to the toilet until this finishes. So as soon as it finished, I rushed off to the toilet, and it was just like I had stomach cramps and diarrhea. My stomach was hurting, it's just like I had a stomach bug. So I was stuck on there for about an hour, on off. Pretty much it was like my system was getting rid of everything. And then after that hour or so, I called up a friend and I called up the hospital. I sort of played down the symptoms, and then I realised I need to go back. So I guess I was having contractions. I just didn't realise it at the time because I didn't believe I was in labour. So I rang up the hospital and said like how I was feeling, and I wasn't, I was in a lot of pain on off, and they said come down and we'll have a look. So the hospital's half an hour away, so we packed our stuff, got ready to go. I think we got there about 9:30, or left about 9:30, and I pretty much was in pain the whole way there, and I had a pillow to scream into, but I wanted to scream over the top. So the whole way there I was having contractions, and they're about 3 minutes apart then, 3 or 5 minutes apart, and wouldn't go away. So we got there, and I was about to have another one. We parked out the front because it was late at night, it was easy to park, and I could see some security guards out the front. I was like, no, we've got to wait until this last contraction finishes, before I have another one, let it go, and then we can walk in. I didn't want to stop in the middle of the road in front of these people and be screaming my lungs out. So we had one more. I got out of the car. I walked as quick as I could in, and we have to go in through emergency that late at night. And we went up to the labour and delivery suites, and of course they were expecting us because I'd rung. And they took us to a room and told them what had been going on. And for about the whole first half hour I got there, I could sort of feel one coming on, but it just wouldn't. Like, the pain was starting, but then it would subside. It was like I was nervous, which I've heard can happen. So after about half an hour, I was like, come on, Jen, just relax. So I did, and then it was just full-blown contractions again. After half an hour, by 11, I had one of the contractions I had, my waters broke, and it just was like someone popped a balloon, and it just went everywhere. And then another contraction not too long after that, the rest of the waters broke. So I got to the hospital about 10, waters broke around 11. It was pretty full on the whole time. I don't know how far apart the contractions were. It was like I was lost in time. Like, I'd look up to the clock and all of a sudden it was an hour and a half later, and it felt like it was 2 minutes. But it also felt like it was 2 hours. It was really weird. I was sort of in my zone, but, in a lot of pain too. So got to a stage where, I needed to push, and kept moving positions, like, on, leaning over on all fours, and nothing was working. And then they told me to lie back and put my feet on. I had a doctor and a midwife, because the midwife asked the doctors to come in and put my feet on their hips. And so by the time I was doing that, I was pushing for like about an hour and a half, and I just kept losing faith. I was like, I hope that they don't turn around and say this isn't working. It was really hard. I guess they don't call it labour for no reason. So anyway, after about an hour and a half of pushing, like the head almost coming out, but then not for so long, finally my daughter's head came out, and it just felt, like they said, like that burning ring of fire sensation. And once her head came out, the rest of her followed. And I was so surprised. I was like, whoa, she's still coming out. They feel so long when when you give birth to a child. Anyway, so she came all the way out, and she was fine. She was healthy. Started crying. It was a loud cry, and that nothing's ever changed. She's a very loud girl. And they put her on my chest, and we got to relax for a bit. Obviously they did the cord clamping, and I gave birth to the placenta as well, and all that went alright. They gave me that injection to help the placenta come out easier or sooner. Can't remember what it's called. But anyway, so she came out, she was fine, she got to go on my chest. It was, that part was really amazing. But I was pretty sore afterwards, I guess, because I was pushing for so long. So it hurt to sit down for like the next week or so. But I didn't get any stitches, so I was pretty happy with that. And then they did, I really loved my birth experience. I didn't feel rushed. They were so supportive and lovely. She was there when I needed her, but not in my face. I could not have asked for a better birth, and that was all through public health system. I didn't have private health insurance. So, that was the birth and delivery of my daughter. And we did have breastfeeding issues, but I guess I can talk about that in another video. But she wanted to latch, and she had a really strong latch, but it was wrecking my nipples. That was the basic short story. Anyway, so yeah, that's the birth and delivery of Zoe, and yeah, as anyone who's given birth before, it's such an achievement to get through it and make it out the other side. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say, I think, and keep that little memory of what happened, and yeah, okay, see you guys.